The paradox of being effective. A lot of people believe that working endlessly for hours and hours is going to make them more effective. They're going to be able to put in a sheer amount of number of hours, and those hours are going to excel them beyond any of their peers. And you see this a lot in investment banking and many big firms. Well, let me tell you, that's not necessarily the only way. I'm going to talk about a few things that people do in this area that might make you reconsider. First of all, let's talk about work duration. When you're working on something incessantly, after a certain point in time, you've stopped looking at the bigger picture and you started getting yourself into the most minutest details. A person making a presentation is, after a certain point in time, just looking after the formatting and the commas and how well aligned things are and all, because the bigger picture thing has been completed already. Now they are wasting their time going into the details. Similarly, even accountants. When an accountant is working on, for example, preparing financial statements, after a certain point in time, they've already stopped being productive. They're no longer noticing anything. Or even a person that is doing coding. After a certain point in time, your brain no longer works and you're no longer able to code. There's a law called the Parkinson's law. And this says that if you have a certain amount of time allotted for a certain task, it's going to fill up that time. So if you have 1 day to make a presentation, guess how long the presentation is going to take? 1 day. And if you end up having only 5 minutes to make that presentation, guess how much time the presentation is going to require? Only 5 minutes. And therefore, there are techniques that exist right now to counter this. There's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is you have to work on focused efforts of 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. How does this help? Because you are putting yourself, exerting your focus for 25 minutes in getting a certain task done. After that time is over, you have the opportunity to step back and reflect. Now you no longer need to work on that task. Knowing that you have 25 minutes also helps you work faster on it, because you start applying yourself quickly knowing that you have only 25 minutes. People have known to double their output by working on this technique alone. There's many people who use these techniques. For example, Bill Gates, he allots 5-minute slots in his day because that forces him to already be productive and make decisions and make things happen within 5 minutes. This technique is called time blocking technique. If you block time for things, then you're going to start following the times that you have allocated. So if you're going to call a meeting for 1 hour to do something, it's going to end up taking at least 1 hour. There's other examples where people decide to deliberately block focused time blocks in their calendar so that they can reflect and think on how they're going to plan themselves better next week. Or for example, some people block themselves early in the morning where they decide how they should be restructuring their day to make it the most effective. Which brings me to my third point on the effectiveness paradox, which is everyone needs time to step back, look at things so that they gain back clarity, they gain back awareness, they gain back perspective, and then they can reapply themselves. Many people apply this in so many ways. For example, when you've done writing, you leave whatever you have written, you walk for 10-15 minutes, you come back and you look at it, you read it one more time and you realize, I was looking at it from a different perspective earlier, but now that I'm reading it like a reader would, I'm realizing that I have gone too much into detail and I can simplify a few things. Remember to not fall into the trap of thinking that if you are applying yourself for several hours, that is leading to better effectiveness or better productivity. Whereas when you're going to stop, think about things, come back, your own effectiveness and productivity will thank you. Good luck.